Good afternoon, everyone. This is Renee Jaffe. I'm the CEO of the Early Learning Coalition. I would like to first welcome you all to our virtual question and answer meeting. I know you are all extremely busy, so I do want to thank you for being on this call today. We're going to try to make this meeting as organized as possible and provide as much information as possible. I understand that having a virtual meeting comes with some challenges when there are so many people on the line, but we will do our best to provide as much information as possible. I ask you that you please mute yourself if you're calling in on a phone to eliminate background noise. Thank you. Over the past few days, we've been working closely with OEL in order to get as much information related to the COVID-19 as possible. While we finally do have some answers, we will likely not be able to answer all of your questions. And we've been told that OEL is working to provide additional information and specifics in the very near future. Shan Goff was supposed to be on this call today. However, unfortunately, she's unable to call in. While there's no doubt that the items being put into an executive order that will provide some relief to early learning programs and providers will be improved. Technically, the order has not been approved, and until then, she cannot be the one to provide the details. However, she did give us the go-ahead to move forward with this call and provide you the details that we do have. In any event, we've collected all of your questions that you provided to us in advance, and we're going to have the heads of each department answer as many questions as they can. I realize there's still a lot of uncertainty, and I understand the frustrations that a lot of you are going through at this time. One question that we've had over and over again throughout the past week is whether you should remain open or close, and that is a business decision. And our hope is that we provide you as much information as possible so you can make the most informed decision as possible. And whatever you do decide, please know that the ELC is here to support you during this crisis. And remember, our staff continues to work, so please call them if you have questions. They're here to help you. We're recording this presentation and we'll send you a link so that you can listen to this in the future, or if you want, you can forward it to others who are unable to be on the call. Additionally, we're putting together an FAQ with all of the questions that you've asked during this call or before this call, and we will compile them and post them onto our website and send them out as soon as we have them. Once again, thank you so much, and please let us know if you have any questions. Okay, at this time, I'm going to toss things over to Christine Klima, our Chief Administration Officer, to answer questions about attendance, program closures, and reimbursements.
Thank you, Renee, and thank you everybody for muting. We received quite a number of questions, as Renee mentioned, but I can say that for payments, they boil down to about 2 big ones and a couple of small ones. So I'm just going to address those 2 bigger questions and then quickly gloss over some of the smaller ones. The biggest question that we're getting is, how will we pay providers that stay open versus how will we pay providers that will be closed? For those that stay open, we will pay providers in the same way that we have always paid providers, where we pay for the days present in actual attendance and for days absent that need to be entered in EFS. If the days absent, the only difference is that the days absent do not need to be documented going forward, and they can exceed the limits that have been set traditionally by the program. So once again, if you are open, we pay for actual attendance and actual absences, and we do not require documentation for absences, and they can exceed the limits. For providers who are closed, we will pay, we document all of the childcare as an absence day based on enrollment, and providers will be paid for their enrollments. The difference between what a open provider and what a closed provider may receive is largely related to school-age children, because Broward County schools are closed. The school-age children for providers who are open will be paid for full-time care if they are providing full-time care. And for providers that are closed, they will be paid for the part-time schedule that's part of the roster. So that's the biggest difference about that. If you have questions or we need special handling, we'll try to come up with a solution for you. It is our intention and our capability to continue to pay providers on time as regularly scheduled, on or before the last business day, the last business day on or before the 19th of each month, so that there will be no disruption in those services. Again, these payments are for eligible children. We've been asked whether or not we would be reimbursing for private pay children, and we cannot include private pay children in our reimbursements. These are for eligible school readiness children that are enrolled through the EFS system that we would be reimbursing you for. And then last but not least, we've been asked a few questions about what providers can do about paying their employees, finding financial help, or looking for loans. That is not our area of expertise. However, we will consult with our community partners to see if we can find resources that we can make available to providers, that if you need financial assistance that goes beyond what our regular reimbursements are, that we would be able to make that information available to you. And now I'm going to turn this back to Hubert, and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Christine, one other thing I wanted to mention was the ELC sent out a bulletin last Friday with resources for business owners. So I encourage you to look there, because there were some opportunities, some relief efforts that were included in that communication. So please look out for that, and you can see that there is some assistance that may be available. So I just need to look at that. As we find opportunities for small businesses, we will continue to forward them to you. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you, everyone. Again, sorry for the issue we just had here. We are trying to get everybody taken care of here. All right, next we're gonna have William Carp. I'm going to unmute your line. Okay, it looks like William's having some technical issues. We're probably going to go over to Amy Unger, and then we'll get back to William once his audio is working properly. Amy?
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to give some updates regarding your school readiness and VPK contracts and programs. The provider relations team is still reviewing your profiles for the 2020-21 program year. A lot of providers started that before all the disruption happened, but we're still waiting on quite a few of them to be submitted. I know everybody has a lot of other priorities right now, but we need the profiles before we can do contracts for next year. So just a reminder to keep that somewhere on your back burner, if not on the front burner. Check to see if you've already submitted it, if it's been activated, because if not, it might be that we needed you to do some changes, and you will need to make some changes and resubmit it before we can move forward with any contracts. We've had a couple of providers that are not currently offering school readiness that have asked if they can, for the remainder of this year, to take up the slack for some of the providers that have closed. And the answer to that is an absolute yes. So if you're not currently providing school readiness, but you would like to do that, we would be more than happy to do your contract with you. The first step to that is going into your 1920 profile. So that's the profile for the current year. And that one of those first questions asks you, do you want to do school readiness, yes or no? If you change that to yes, it's going to give you some additional places to upload documents on your document page, and then resubmit that to us. And then we'll know that you want us to initiate a school readiness contract for you for the current program year. So again, we invite anybody that's interested in helping your community out to go ahead and do that. We've had some questions about whether or not summer VPK will continue to go on. At this point, we are assuming the answer is yes. Of course, we're all going to have to wait and see how things play out over the next few weeks. But technically, summer VPK can begin as early as May 1st. If your summer classroom was already approved, then you're in good shape, and we'll hope that everything is in place when you want to start. We have been asked by OEL to let providers know not to make changes to their VPK applications right now. I think there's going to be some changes on the back end that are going to affect the calendars. So to avoid you doing double work, I would say if you've not done a summer VPK calendar yet, even if you're intending to do summer VPK, hold off a little while just in case any changes are coming so it doesn't undo what you've done. Also, one thing that's really important to know about VPK is that the AP3s, the last VPK assessments, are not going to be required if your program has not yet ended. Typically, you do those assessments in the last 30 calendar days of your VPK year. So if those last 30 days has not yet started, then you're not going to be responsible for the AP3s. Those scores were being calculated as part of your readiness rates for the school year. So that's kind of an indicator that they may not be readiness rates next year. We don't have a definite on that. But if that was a question that you had, that's what we're assuming the answer will mean, because you won't be held responsible for the AP3s. There simply won't be a score for them to add. Those were all the updates that I had. So Hubert, back to you.
Yes, thank you, Amy. Okay, William is still having issues with his connection, so he'll call in a second. All right, in the meantime, we're going to move over to Allison.
Hi, everybody. This is Allison. I just have a few updates to share with you. For school readiness, as you are aware, since we're not going out to the schools right now, all class assessments are on hold. So if you don't have one in the next few months, don't worry, because that will not hold up. That will not hold up whether or not you have a contract for next school year with your school readiness program. You will still have a contract. In some of the questions we got from you guys before this started, one was about to continue instruction through educational packets for the families. That's completely up to you guys. However you want to continue the connection with families, I think some families would definitely appreciate some recommendations for some activities to do with their kids. So again, that's really up to you guys. We have on our website under parents, there's some great links. We'll continue to update that with some additional activities you can share with families. Another question we got was whether or not you should continue to teach your VPK curriculum. I would say look into your VPK curriculum, because there probably are a lot of family components, a lot of family extension activities that, again, would help anybody that's really looking for some assistance. You know, there's always some good stuff. There's Starfall, which I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with already. And again, just check out our website under the parents link. We'll continue to update some websites to recommend to families. That's really it for my stuff. So take care, everybody. Back to you, Hubert.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, we can hear you, William.
Oh, all right. Are you ready for me?
Yes, go ahead. Floor is yours.
Okay. First of all, I apologize for the technical problems, and I want to thank the ELC for making this possible for us to get this information to you. As you probably know, the county is an order, which indicates that if you're staying open, child care must be carried out in stable groups of 10 or fewer. And those groups of 10 or fewer include adults and children. So basically the maximum number of people that can be in a group is 10. The children and child care providers shall not change from one group to another. So they need to remain with just the same group for the entire time they're there. If more than one group of children is cared for at one facility, each group shall be in a separate room. Okay, so we've had a lot of questions as to what constitutes a room, especially for school readiness purposes and group sizes. There's a definition of stable walls. This scenario is different than that. We're talking about infection control. So that stable walls that are only 4 feet high do not do the same kind of infection control that an actual wall would be. So the interpretation is that a room has to have actual walls in order to be a room. So if you have a large room that you have bookcases, 4-foot bookcases that separate, that large room is all one room, not two rooms. Okay. Groups shall not mix or interact with each other, and play equipment used by one group of children must be cleaned and sanitized before use by a different group of children. And finally, any child exhibiting symptoms consistent with COVID-19 shall not be allowed to stay in a child care facility. There are a couple of additional questions that I was provided. One says, do providers have to inform licensing of the reason they close? We would like to know, that. I can't require you to contact us, but we are going through a basic survey period now where we're contacting all providers to get general information from them as to whether they're open, whether they're closed, whether they need any assistance in interpreting the guidelines. We want to make sure we have good contact information for everybody because we want to try and do our best to stay in touch with you throughout this period of time. Another question that we got was, will schools be visited by licensing before they are approved to reopen? And no, if you close related to the COVID-19 infection, at the point where you're ready to open, we ask you to inform us so we're aware that you're open, but you do not have to wait for an inspection from our office in order to open. Another question I got was, should we remain open? The decision to remain open is really yours. You know your community, you know your clientele best, you know what's best for your business, and we trust you to make the decision that makes the most sense for you. Another question was, how can we partner with hospitals, supermarkets, and government agencies whose employees are essential workers? I think that's a great question. I would recommend that you reach out to those businesses that reflect those kinds of personnel who are essential workers and let them know that you're available. I know we've gotten some phone calls from providers who are actually providing free childcare to first responders or reduced tuition for first responders. That's all wonderful. It's all up to you. You don't have to get approval from us to temporarily enroll children on a drop-in basis. You don't have to get approval from us if you're going to enroll children who are school age if it's not on your license yet. That's basically all I have prepared. I don't know, Hubert, if you have specific additional questions for me.
William, we are going to take questions. Just as soon as Christine kind of reiterate what she said earlier, I think some people are asking for her to reiterate what she said. So Christine, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, just before you start, Christine, I just want to thank all of you for your for what you're doing for our community. You know, childcare is, we learned this after Hurricane Wilma. For those of you who were here 12 years ago, and we're learning it again today. You guys are the backbone of the entire economy, and so thank you for what you're doing and what you do every day.
Thank you, William. Christine, go ahead.
Okay, so I just want to repeat what I said about providers being open versus providers being closed because we got interrupted and some people didn't catch everything that I was able to say. So for a provider that is open, you are paid for your actual attendance and actual absences, and the absences are no longer capped at the 10 days that were previously in place. So you may have more than 10 days, you may have as many absences as are necessary, or the parent may have just taken the child and home. As long as you document those as absences, we are also not requiring that you produce documentation for those absences. So providers that are open are paid for both children who are present and children who are absent that are on their roster. And if the child is school age, they may be reimbursed for full-time care, and they have to change the care level to full-time in EFS when they submit. For providers who are closed, You are paid based on your enrolled children. In EFS, you have to record all the children as absent, and it's based on the roster that you have in EFS. And again, the submission in EFS, those rules have not changed, that you should wait until the end of the month before you submit your attendance for reimbursement, whether you're open or closed, and that you should submit that attendance by the 3rd business day of the month following care, unless OEL tells us otherwise. And this is a fluid situation. These rules and instructions may change going forward, but at this time, this is what we know, and these are the instruction. I also want to mention that OEL will likely waive parent fees, co-payments, so that issue will not come up. So Hubert, let me know if there's any other questions we need to answer.
And I just wanted to jump in. This is Renee Jaffe again. In terms of eligibility and enrollment, OEL has suspended determination related to eligibility. So at this time, we will not be dropping any children who may be up for redetermination. They will remain eligible in the system. They're also extending any timelines related to redetermination, including if a parent has not submitted any documentation right now. So that's just something OEL wanted me to pass along, that they are not going to be dropping any children at this time. They're still working out the details of that. But right now, if you have a parent in your program who is anxious about their re-enrollment, whether you're open or closed, right now they are waiving all deadlines related to redetermination. And just before we go, and Hubert is going to go through all the other questions that haven't been answered, I just wanted to do a really quick recap with you. I'm going to very broad strokes, just let you know that whether you're open or closed, you will be reimbursed, as Christine explained. We are paying for, if you are open, OEL has increased the number of absences, so you will be paid for those absences. We are canceling all screenings, whether it's school readiness or VPK, for this fiscal year. Right now, you do not need to worry about those screenings or assessments. OEL is saying that they're going to waive VPK provider accountability for 2020. Those are the kindergarten screenings. Okay, so right now there will be no score related to that for this fiscal year. And they're canceling for us, some monitorings that we have internally. And they're extending the timelines for provider improvement plans, reports, and VPK instructional calendars. And then again, on the family side, as I mentioned, they are suspending termination of SR eligibility. They are extending all timelines required for redetermination of SR eligibility. They are waiving parent copays or fees for school readiness families, and they are waiving required documentation for school readiness child absences. So that's what OEL has provided to the coalitions, and as soon as it's officially approved, they will be providing that documentation to you as well. Okay, Hubert, kicking it back to you. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you, Renee. All right, so now we're going to go over to the chat feature. We're going to answer questions from the chat, so I'll read them out loud. Give me 1 second. All right, so the first question is, could you inquire about an extension of the deadline or SR curriculum if you need to purchase a new edition? So, I think Amy Unger, can you answer this question? The question is, could you inquire about an extension of the deadline for SR curriculum if you need to purchase a new edition?
Mhm.
I don't know if that question should have been VPK, but just reading the question.
No, that pertains to school readiness. The curriculum list was updated this year, and providers were given a deadline of June 30th to purchase a curriculum that's on the new list. That is not a question that I've seen posed to OEL yet, and I think that's a good suggestion that we bring that one up to them. So we'll have to get back to you on that, but that's a very good question.
The next question is regarding application that was sent over to the ELC and the providers asking for an update. You should be able to call the customer service line and at 954-377-2188. Sorry, I drew a blank there. So if you call the number, our staff should be able to assist you with that information here.
Oh, actually, also another good point. Hi, this is Howard Backlar. For those of you wondering about student transfers, about children transferring from one school to another, we have actually received almost no requests for transfers so far. So if you're wondering what is happening, we believe right now families are just keeping their children home, either because a school has closed or because they've made that decision independently. But we have not seen a lot of transfers at all yet. That may change in the future, but for now, it's actually very low. Next question.
All right, the next question is, what is the effective date for payment?
For paid absences?
For paid absences? Christine, can you answer that?
So Broward County Schools closed effective March 16th. So that's when we had our first provider closure. So that's when the emergency closure dates begin.
The next question, I believe that's for William. If we have 12 children and one teacher, is that okay? Do we tell 2 kids not to come? What if they have to
That's
go
a
to
really
work?
good question, and it's a really tough answer. The rule is that you should have no more than 10 people in any room. So if you have 12 people in the room, you're not in compliance with the rule, and it's harder for you to do effective infection control. So I can't tell you who to say not to come, obviously. If you don't have another room, you can limit that in a variety of ways. You can have children stagger times or days, or you can just temporarily disenroll some children. I don't know. It's a really tough call. I wish there was a really easy answer to that. But the guideline is a maximum of 10 people, including staff, in a room.
There's another question for you, William, in terms of keeping children in separate rooms. Fine. What about shared bathrooms?
Well, that's another really good question. I don't think that the county order considered that. So, shared bathrooms are fine. You obviously, providers need to be encouraged to increase the sanitization and disinfecting of the bathroom facilities between children whenever, as often as is possible, just to help to promote more infection control. Great question, though.
Right. And we received another question about families, whether they lose their eligibility when their children don't attend. And again, the answer is no. Families will not lose their eligibility during this period. And again, at least for the moment, kind of a comfort to providers who have closed, these families have not requested transfers, almost none of them so far. So if we were guessing at that right now, we'd guess that they're waiting for an all clear sign to reopen. And that was a bunch of other questions. When do I reopen? The answer obviously is we don't know. No one can tell right now. That's you'll know it when we know it, when people start getting in all clear from a federal and a state and then local level. But we're in no position to let anyone know when they can reopen. You clearly can anytime. It's whether you want to.
Okay. Another question is, can we open to everyone or all essential work?
Sorry. Okay. The guideline doesn't specify who these people are, so you can open for more than just essential workers if you desire to. That's totally your choice, provided you comply with the guidelines in place.
All right. Another question is, does the regulation take into account that directors and assistant directors will need to move in between classrooms to maintain oversight during the day?
Yeah, so that's another great question. You know, the order was made fairly quickly and it's consistent with the orders throughout the state. So directors and assistant directors, administrators are permitted to go into rooms. What they should do is limit the contact with as many people as possible and do their own infection control hand washing between classrooms. So if the director goes into one classroom to see what's going on, to kind of check on things and say hello, before going to another classroom, they should, you know, wash their hands.
Should I do my excuse that I do?
If you want to continue doing them, that's great, but with so many children absent, we understand that that's very unlikely to continue at a normal pace. So the provider relations team will not be following up on those very vigilantly right now. Again, if the children are there, we suggest that you do them. But the school board is probably, you know, they're shut down right now anyway. So even if children are determined to have concerns, the referral process is probably not working the way it normally does anyway. This is likely something that we're going to have to pick up again when things resume to normalcy.
Okay. Next one is for you, Christine. Can you reiterate what providers can do for their employees as far as pay when during the closing time?
So we encourage providers to pay their employees to the extent they're able. The providers are private businesses, however, and it's not something that we control. However, we will, and as Renee mentioned, we've sent out some communications with some resources for providers for how to get through this difficult time, and we will continue to research resources in the community and make them available that providers can look for assistance with business management issues like this.
Next one is for William. Can we have mixed ages in the classrooms?
Yes, of course. All the ratio and regulations and supervision regulations apply. So if you have mixed ages, as long as you comply with the ratio requirements for that group of children, then you're absolutely fine.
William, this one is for you again. Can you clarify the ordinance question, question that they're talking about here?
Excuse me, I'm sorry?
I think I got this, William. Someone is asking about the county administrator's executive order or the emergency order. For everyone on the call, if you go to Broward County's main page, which is broward.org, you'll see under COVID-19 a series of orders as the county commissioner or the county administrator issue these. And the last one on there, I think it's from yesterday maybe, it has specifics about childcare businesses on there. We also have it posted on our website at elcbroward.org. but there are specifics in there, so you would definitely want to do that. And the Broward County page is actually an excellent page anyways for lots of different resources for the virus.
You can find it on the order from the county administrator on page 6, letter item Roman numeral V, little v, and it discusses, it's titled actually child care.
And it will also actually give you a really good indication of what other businesses are open right now. So if you, as individuals, need some help with things, you'll see what other things in town are still open and available. It's really very useful.
And those businesses maybe have employees who are looking for childcare.
Okay. Next question. If the parent fees are suspended, will ELC pay 100% of the tuition? Christine?
Yes, ELC will be reimbursing for the full portion of the reimbursable amount, including the amount that would be the copay.
The next one is there a way to split the attendance since we were open the week of the 16th and closed for student as of today, the 23rd, when we need to submit the attendance on the 3rd? I think I'll answer that one. As far as the system is will allow us to add the closure day or closure days accordingly. So the only thing we'll tell you is that we will pay for every child that is on your roster for the whole month. Next question is, are VPK registration for next school year still being taken? I would say the answer is yes. As providers, should we suggest? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know that some applications are still coming in, although at a reduced rate, and there are staff still reviewing them. So yes, families are still applying for VPK and being given vouchers for next year.
And along those lines, I just wanted to reiterate that the ELC is all staff are continue to work and process whatever comes in. So we haven't shut down our operations. Our office is not open. However, our operations are at 100%. So you can continue to call any staff that help you, whether it's your provider relations specialist, your reimbursement specialist. Parents can call our child care resource and referral hotline to get referrals or just to ask questions. And we are still processing any redeterminations that come in, any VPK applications that come in. So we are still 100% functional.
Next question is, if I have a set of schedule for the morning for VPK, can I add an afternoon session? I believe the answer is yes, as long as you don't have more than 10 in the classroom. William, maybe you can add to that.
Sure. From a licensing perspective, we are not the VPK experts. However, the rule is, yes, if you have a different group in the afternoon than you had in the morning, you can have a different group of 10. But the other rule related to sanitizing all the equipment, you want to do a nice cleaning job in between the groups.
Hubert, let me chime in on that. Just want to point out that if you were to you're going to have a very long day. It's not going to be an afternoon. You're not going to get 540 hours in between March and June just doing 3-hour days. So that's a sticky proposition there.
Amy, can you also answer if they would have to do makeup for VPK sessions?
We're not being told that there's any requirement to make up the hours, no.
I'm just going to backstep for 1 sec while Renee was saying we are still operational and functional. What we're not doing right now, though, obviously, is we're not processing redeterminations, meaning we are not terminating any children at the moment. So that is one thing that we have suspended doing.
And another one for you, Amy. Can I still make changes to the current VPK contract?
Theoretically, yes, you can. I would ask you to hold off only because, as I said, there's going to be some technical things done on the back end to facilitate VPK payments that they said could undo or make us have to redo something on your calendar. So if it's something that's an emergency, I would say reach out to your provider relations specialist and we'll discuss whether it needs to be done right now. But as far as can you make changes to staff, I mean, that kind of thing, yeah, absolutely. That's not a problem. Go ahead and do that. I think it's the calendar that we would need to talk to you about in person before you make any changes.
Christine, this one is for you. How long will ELC pay for absences?
There has not been a cap put on absences at this time.
The next one is, since school is supposed to return to its normal session next month, will VPK continue back to its regular schedule also? And we have made updates. Actually, there hasn't been a determination as to when school is supposed to return to normal. So we do not have an answer for that one right now.
I'm not seeing any additional questions from the chat. Are there any more questions? Any more clarifications?
Please know that we still have on our website, you can still send your questions in. We're still taking them. We will get back to you if you have additional questions. Again, we are going to post all of these questions and answers so that you have it, as well as the recording of this session. I want to reiterate what William said. You know, the fact that you are all being considered essential is huge, and I concur that you are absolutely essential, and appreciate for those of you. I know it's not an easy decision whether to stay open or close, and regardless of what you do, I want to thank you for what you do and for doing the best you can to serve the children and families. I know that from what I'm hearing from OEL, they want to do as much as they can to make it easier for you to be safe. And if that means closing your doors, then you should do that. Again, this is a business decision. You are private. You are private organization, so you have to do what's best for you. But we do want you to be as safe and healthy as possible, both you and the families that you serve. So thank you again for all you do, and please do not hesitate to reach out to us with questions, and we will continue to keep you posted as things unravel, as we get more questions. As we get more answers, we will continue to update you as quickly as possible.
Before everyone goes, just to reiterate, as we're closing down, we seem to be getting a few more questions. We'll post the questions and the answers, and we'll continue to, even if we didn't do it right now. As they continue to come in, just look for answers from us, right?
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone.